How to Train Your Dragon is directed by DeBlois and is a remake of the animated film of the same name. On the rugged Isle of Berk, where Vikings and dragons have been bitter enemies for generations, Hiccup defies centuries of tradition when he befriends Toothless, a feared Night Fury dragon. The original How to Train Your Dragon is one of the most memorable animated films of this century. It's inventive, it's funny, it's incredibly moving, and it is one of DreamWorks' best. So when they announced the remake, I was curious but also hesitant. The main reason I was curious was that DeBlois, the co-writer and co-director of the original film, was returning to helm it. However, the trailers almost made this look like a fan film. It looked like they were taking every moment from the original and making it worse. So ultimately, I really was not looking forward to this remake of How to Train Your Dragon. Whoever came in to play Hiccup had big shoes to fill. But I have to say, Mason Thames does a solid job here. He manages to capture the spirit of the character. There is definitely a playfulness, but he also humanizes this character. You really understand how he's feeling throughout this film, and I enjoyed his interpretation of this character. Gerard Butler returns, having voiced Stoic in the original animated film, and he plays him in live action here, which is a really cool idea. And you can tell he's having a lot of fun. He really gets a lot of opportunities to ham it up almost, and he takes every opportunity to do so. However, I have to say, I actually think my favourite performance in this movie was Nick Frost's. He plays Gobbler Belch, who teaches all the kids dragon fighting, and he's really funny in this movie. I was just really entertained by what he did with his character. He gave it a lot of personality. From a visual standpoint, this movie looks amazing. The cinematography is beautiful, the colour palette is often really vivid, and this world feels lived in. That can also be attributed to the production design. It really does feel like they built a lot of these sets. When characters are walking around this island, it feels like everything is on location. The dragons also translate well to live action. They're well implemented into the live action. They feel tangible, they feel real. When Mason Thames is touching Toothless for the first time, you feel like he is actually touching a dragon. Throughout How to Train Your Dragon, there are definitely entertaining and sweet moments. Now, I don't want to spend this whole review comparing it to the original film, but this remake follows the original film very, very closely. And a lot of those entertaining / sweet moments are moments that happened in the original. So whenever a moment like that happened, I just felt like, okay, that was cool, but I've seen this done before. They make very few changes to the story, and I have to say, even the changes they did make, I wasn't particularly fond of. I did not like what they did with the character of Astrid. When this character is introduced here, they make her a much colder character. And don't get me wrong, they do attempt to give her more depth at the beginning, but the issue is you don't believe her character evolution from that point. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen the original film, but the way they did it here feels rushed and confusing. I never believed in anything her character said or did in the second half of this movie especially. If you've seen the original, you know that during the dragon training sequences, there are a group of teenagers surrounding Hiccup and Astrid. I have to say, I found them rather annoying here. None of their jokes landed for me, and whenever they were on screen, I just wanted it to cut back to Hiccup and Toothless. And I think the film really would have benefited from that. Just more of a focus on Hiccup and Toothless. This movie just is not able to justify its existence with so few changes made, and the ones that are made aren't exactly significant. With this How to Train Your Dragon remake, your thoughts are going to depend on what you want out of it. If you want a film that follows the original story very, very, very closely, then I'm sure you'll have a good time with this movie. But if you want something that takes chances with the source material, something that tries to stand on its own, then odds are you'll be disappointed. I don't think this is a terrible or even bad movie, but what it is pointless. And I ultimately can't recommend this movie because simply there's a better and more effective version of this story you can just watch at home. I'm going to give How to Train Your Dragon a C+. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. You guys are awesome. Blu-ray Billy, logging off.